here's another question I had, because I have many, but in my personal experience, I've noticed a lot more of my aunties, uncles of that generation having a paradigm shift to the point where they're embracing edibles. They're not taking bong rips, you know what I mean? Smoking blunts, like, you know what I mean? But they are eating edibles. Yeah. And they're eating it in a more medicinal way versus recreational, meaning they're not eating edible and going to the beach. Yeah. They're winding down at the end of the day to go to sleep, eating an edible. Right. And so I found myself in a situation where I'm like, hey, Mom, I got some shake for you. Because she was interested in making some butter, right? Making some edibles. And this is the same woman who, like 10 years ago, I had to hide my weed from. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so if we're talking about this sort of this trajectory of this plant into lives of people here in Hawaii, what ages do you think, or let's put it this way, what benefits are at each age group? So like for, let's say 20-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 80-year-olds, like what kind of benefits are hitting each of these age groups?
So for me, I think that one of the key factors is looking at science and looking at how our body interacts with cannabis at certain age groups. So, of course, factoring all of that in, looking at the statistics on how we govern appropriately, and then also about the dosage amounts and things like that. We're still getting into the nitty-gritty of those kind of stuff. But in terms of generational support, I agree with you. There is definitely a paradigm shift happening amongst the older generations, which have been kind of the gatekeepers, I guess you can say, of the legalization movement. And I think that there is a lot more support in terms of the benefits and the understanding of how this can be a great substitute for those, for example, on pills, right? And we know how pills damage the liver and all these different things. And of course, cannabis probably is best consumed as an edible because there isn't any smoke inhalation and things like that. But we have to talk about also being a nanny state. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Yeah. That's where I come from. It's like, okay, this illegal, that illegal, everything is pretty much illegal. Mm-hmm. And when you make everything illegal, you just are creating a black market. And I think that's something that has been lost in translation of what we're actually doing when we make things illegal or prohibit things from being sold in our islands. We're just giving opportunity for people in the illegal market to then use that money and then invest more into the illegal market. And then that's where you also see crime rates and organized stuff like that occurring in our community. Cause you know, there's all this cash to be made because people want it. And that's where I feel like the nanny state mindset has to shift as well of our government, because if we remove a lot of the red tapes that, for example, DPP, to do something for your house, it takes maybe a year if you're lucky, maybe 2 years if you're unlucky, to get permits and all of these stuff done. And looking at ways like that and putting it into the realm of cannabis and saying, okay, look at these testing requirements, how all of these testing requirements are costing the manufacturer or the people that are growing all of this extra money that then gets passed on the consumer. The prices is too high at the dispensaries. The consumer can get it cheaper in the community, decent, probably comparable quality. And then, you end up in that revolving door. It's like, okay, the prices are set at this, but they have to set the prices at that because of the overhead that they're got to go deal with in terms of administering the state's medical program. That's the example.
I see a beautiful parallel here between what we're talking about earlier about relationships in the streets and relationships in the state capitol to prices in the streets, to prices in a, let's say, dispensary. Yeah. And like at the end of the day, the consumer, like let's be clear, there's no shortage of demand. Yeah. In Hawaii.
100%.
Right? So that demand will be supplied. The question is who's supplying it.
Correct.
And now if we go the route of, let's say, now this is a regulated regulated goods that's on the market,
Mm-hmm.
the pricing of that good, like you said, is going to be basically decided by the manufacturer, and the cost of operations, the cost of goods, basically these things that they might have to pay for, that gets either they can decide to put it on us, the consumers, or at the end of the day, we're going to have the option of going to you or somebody else, the legacy, how you said, the legacy
growers.
I'll go into the legacy market or to the regulated market.
Right.
And my experience being on both sides in both this country as well as not this country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We'll keep it at that.
I would say that having the options, one, is good for the consumer.
Yeah.
Right. But then as a manufacturer, you're going to look at to your left, be like, okay, I see what the legacy market's doing. This is what I'm doing. One thing I've seen when I go into the, let's say, regulated market is, I didn't expect it, but the quality was top notch. Maybe it's because of these regulations that are in place and like these kinds of, I would say measurable results and sort of like rules, basically rules and regulations, right? And reporting and stuff like that, and having probably inspection processes and stuff. So it's like, what comes out of that is amazing. You know what I mean? And I wasn't used to that because I was in a legacy market.
Right.
And I don't know, or whatever you say,
right?
Whatever you tell me, like you put this is sour D's.
Yeah.
Is it?
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, this is X%. You know, like this is a hybrid.
Yeah,
That's the first time I actually like looked at percentages of a hybrid. I mean, like, oh, this is whatever, 70%, right? Was that
CBD.
is in Portland, Oregon,
Yeah.
at a dispensary where you just got to show your license, not some other card that it paid money for.
Right.
Just I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I walk in and then I was like, oh, I've never seen a menu like this. And I didn't even know certain properties of this plant that I thought I was familiar with. So I think that's one benefit to the regulation part, is like, you know what you're getting.
Right.
You know what you're getting, and there's actually accountability on the
100%.
manufacturer side. So that's the argument for me that I've always like, that's why I want to walk into a dispensary.
Right.
Legacy is just the convenience, but also probably at this stage where we are right now, 2023, is like, I just know there's a trust factor kind of built in.
Yeah.
Versus like, hey, stranger, I don't know what I'm getting. So it's like, it's going to be interesting, this sort of transitory period.
I think so.
I think there's a lot of people like me who are like just waiting because, you know, the legacy is going to be legacy. Yeah. But with the opportunity of having something like this, there's one right here in Colton.
Yeah, I know. You know? I know, because you know why? You already know they're probably anticipating that the legalization is around the corner.
It's right next to a brewery,
and so you know, and let's talk about that too. You know, it's like you know, we have legalization on alcohol, for example. Yeah. And my whole thing about prohibition has been that look at what the ban on alcohol did. It created a mafia. It created all of these guys illegally making all the alcohol. Yep. And that's exactly what legalization will solve, I believe, in a lot of this. Will that it'll take these guys from having this absolute power and authority over this legacy market and put it more into the hands of the consumer, as you mentioned about the testing requirements. That is key. If you think about grandma who doesn't know too much about, you know, cannabis, and she's looking for it and she's finding some blowjo off the street to sell it to her. You know, we don't know what kind of heavy metals are in there. We don't know about type of pesticides they're using.
Exactly.
It's all unsure. And, you know, you're exposing people who are generally law-abiding citizens who are using cannabis to this unhealthy, unregulated market. And so there is definitely a need to shift on that. And we look at even fireworks, right? A perfect example, right? Yeah. I think fireworks got worse after the ban than it was with it legalized. Because there was a time where you could buy aerials and everything from Kmart and whatever, go
Kmart.
Remember Kmart?
Yeah.
That was our spot. But yeah, I remember going in there, getting all the fireworks we wanted, all on those big pallets, and everybody got a permit pretty much. And, you do it that way. And then you look at today and it's like, it's everybody pyrotechnics.
You're right.
Here.